Welcome to Day Zero. Welcome to Day Zero with FOUNDIT. Today, I'm joined with our newest recruit and partner at FOUNDIT, which is Melanie Bosward. Melanie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Gus.
Today, we want to get into a few different topics. Firstly, we want to talk about the Northern Rivers, the area that you cover and you live in for quite some time now. Some of your origin story about living in the Northern Beaches, selling real estate there, also some of the houses that you built, flipped and sold as well. So firstly, thank you. And we're so privileged to have you on board the FOUNDIT journey.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much.
So Mel, let's kick off with a little bit of backstory about you, where you grew up, where you started your career in real estate to kick it off.
So I grew up on the Northern Beaches, Avalon specifically. Started in real estate 97, I think it was, with LJ Hooker Motorvale.
Mm-hmm.
Had the best experience there. Unbelievable team. Lachlan, who still owns it, and Chris that ran it, who still runs it, and unbelievable training. Did everything in the business. So receptionist, property management, sales. So I got a little bit of a taste of everything.
Yep.
And then left to have children and started my own real estate firm. Ran that for several years, ended up selling that, and throughout that period had moved to the Northern Rivers or Byron.
Yep.
And have swapped over to the buy side.
So over the span of the 25-year career, you've had a lot of learnings and experience from being, as you said, a listing agent to property management. And I should say, I know you're quite humble in it, but you were in the top 5% of all listing agents across the whole LJ Hooker network. Give us a little bit of the learnings and the light bulb moment for you when you started in real estate that inspired you to want to kick off a 25-year career.
Yeah, it's all about the people with real estate. And I just enjoyed you meet different people every day and you're not in the same environment every day. You're in people's homes. And I don't think there was one particular moment. I just love the industry and everything that it offers, both the person working in it and the people buying and selling every day. I think it's just a culture.
Yeah, it's such an interesting space and it's like so unique. You see people leave and then they always seem to come back and gravitate back to real estate because it's one of these infectious industries that you want to work in, because it's not just real estate, it's not just property, it's not just finance, it's also the people that sit in behind the properties.
Yep.
And a large part of the job is problem solving, as you know. Stepping into running your own business as being a leading listing agent, what were some of the things and the learnings that you had in running your own business that you've taken forward now into the philosophy of how you operate today in Northern Rivers? That
was huge, running my own business. I definitely took it slower than working in a firm because you have to be across all facets. So I would rather than running 15 auctions at one time, you might be running 3 or 4 and you're much more involved in every single aspect of the sale. And also I was running the rent roll at the same time. And I think a lot of agencies don't see the value in the rent rolls as much as what there is. And that is something that feeds the agency every day. But it's also the livelihood for the person that owns it.
Totally.
And taking care of that. I feel a lot of agencies will put somebody that's less experienced in the property management sector and they're not taking care of the baby. So I really enjoyed it was hard work, but I really enjoyed taking care of that part of it. And it fed on to other business and you were really involved with the owner from that side of it.
Do you think it makes you a better buyer agent because you've actually had that experience in owning your own real estate business, not just a sales business, but the property management or the property asset side as well?
Yeah, I do think so because I've seen, and there's things that come like insurances and insurance claims, and you're involved in so much more when you're part of the property management as well. Yeah, I would say that. And seeing all sides of a buy for even looking for an investor. So I see all the sides that come with that as well as buying to live in.
Being a buyer, you made the journey to decide to move up from Mona Vale, having your own business, selling it, and then making the big decision to move to Byron Bay. Not just living in Byron Bay, but also building a home there, but also becoming a buyer agent up there. I'm curious, what are some of the things that a average consumer wouldn't know about when you're looking at buying property up in Byron? Let's take Byron as an example. I know you cover all of the region around it, that people wouldn't traditionally even think about when they're looking to buy property up there.
Yeah, sure. So they wouldn't think about the schooling, although some people are buying for holiday aspect rather than permanent. So that's not an issue for them. Different things, flood zones are a big one in our area. So knowing different aspects of that.
Yeah.
Where the hotspots are, you want to know where the cafes and the restaurants, and there's so many micro zones and communities in our area, so many. So it's not just one section. You want to know what you're looking for and where those little micro communities, align with you.
I never thought about that. Like, what are some of the micro communities up there?
Oh, so we've got, say, like in the hinterland, Newrybar. It's a beautiful community. You go down by the beach, you've got Lennox. That's a whole nother area. You've obviously got Byron. So many little pockets in the hinterland offer little different aspects. Federal is a beautiful community, the most amazing Japanese restaurant.
It is always packed. Yeah.
So lots of different pockets.
Yeah. And tell me, when you transition from moving from sell side into the buyer agent side, what's been the change for you? What have you loved about it versus being on the sell side?
I wanted to flip to the buyer side because I really love the journey that the buyer goes through. They really change through from start to finish. Lots of things change. And I always loved working with the vendors and creating their, getting them what they wanted at the end of the day. And it's a much shorter journey, I think, with the vendor, whereas the buyer will go, especially in our area, it can go for quite some time. You can look for a long time before you find the right property because everything is so different in Byron or our whole area, or properties offer different aspects. And I just love the happiness it brings at the end of the day to the buyer.
Yeah, I often find that, with a good sell side agent, they are dealing with that client for 30 days. If they do their job well, they get the client from listing to getting the contract to sale signed within that 30 days. I do find a lot in the more and more buyers agents I speak to is that they are ingrained in every want and need of what they're actually going after from a property perspective and a lifestyle perspective, probably more so than the sell side when they're trying to work and problem solve to help them extract the best sale price.
Yeah, I think you've nailed that.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting. What are some of the questions and things that if I'm a consumer, I'm sitting down with you, I've decided to go with Melanie, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to know and what do you need to know from me in order to have a successful transaction and successful journey of buying the right property? What would be some of the questions you'd be asking me?
I often ask how long you have already been on the journey for, because often I will come in part way. It's not at the very beginning quite often. And are there properties that you haven't liked rather than the properties that you have liked? Because that seems to it negates a lot of the things that you might be looking for or not looking for. And areas that, especially in our area, that they might already have friends. They might have already been revisiting friends in certain areas, so they already like a particular micro community for different reasons.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what about in terms of this myth of, COVID, everyone can go home and work from home, and then they're like, okay, let's move to Byron, and then there's a return to work policy that comes into play for Melbourne and Sydney siders, and they flock back from Byron. Actually, I think some of the data that you've seen and what you're seeing on the ground is people are still moving from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane to Byron in a full-time capacity as well, right?
Very much so. And moving their families to create I don't know, it's really great for kids having that down-to-earth upbringing. And then a lot of people are FIFO for work. So they might work from home, but they'll still fly in and out of Sydney or Melbourne or drive back to Brisbane for meetings. So they're not permanently living in Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane. They're permanently living in our area in the Northern Rivers. But they're coming in and out for meetings every now and again.
And so if you flip it the other way, you're living in Northern Beaches, you grew up in Northern Beaches. What inspired the decision for you to make the decision to go and move up to Byron Bay as well?
My husband had been visiting Byron for a long time and already had property there. And I think we loved holidaying there, which a lot of people do. And then you want to live where you holiday. And it is very different living. You don't live the way you do holiday. And we wanted that more relaxed, easygoing lifestyle. And it just happened, actually. It just resonated with us and we just flipped and said, we're going to live here.
It's interesting because, so many people, as you said, they go up there for holidays and then shop around, start having a look at whether they should be staying there and relocating the family. Often, I think you've said this to me before, your busiest time is often over that holiday period as well, right? A lot of people flying in, they've got the means to do so. And so they're speaking to you about buying a property, whether it's to rent it out, potentially move there later, or holiday maker as well.
Yes. And that's what is a bonus for me as well. When I'm dealing with the local agents and I've got a buyer, they know the buyer is serious, because there are a lot of buyers that look around, think they want to make the move, but everybody loves looking at property.
Yeah.
So it's that gives me a bit of an edge, well, a big edge actually, when talking to the agents. They know then that the buyer that I'm dealing with is very serious.
And so when, let's say you've got someone, they're looking in these different pockets and these micro markets that I hadn't really thought about, which is somewhat obvious, of whether it's Lennox, whether it's Byron Hinterland, whether it's actually Byron Beach. Tell me, let's give an example. So what are the different characteristics and things that you're making sure of for a client who's buying Byron Bay Beach versus someone who's buying up in the hinterland when you're looking at that asset and making a decision as to whether it's the right purchase at the right price and floods, et cetera, et cetera? Give us a couple of different examples of things that you would be looking at, contrast to each other.
So when you're looking in, say, downtown Byron itself or closer to the beach, you're doing the same for both areas. You're looking at if the property has been on before, how long it's been on for, but looking more with what the buyer is after. Are they wanting to be downtown, walking to the shops, walking to the restaurants, access like that, and walking to the beach? Or do they want to be around Watergoes, where that's another lifestyle in itself, where they're just beach orientated and lifestyle orientated, and then they'll drive into the shops. So you're looking for really buyer dependent and really making sure the buyer knows what they're looking for. And they might think they want one thing, and just depending on what their needs and wants are, whether they've got young kids, older kids, grandkids, family coming to stay, the access that they want. And same with the hinterland. Do they have large families that they're trying to house on one property, visiting? Do they want access, because you are driving a lot to get to different zones? Yeah. But not, you're choosing to live in the hinterland and you're wanting that lifestyle where everybody can be in the one property.
And so we've got friends who have moved up there as well and they bought a plum farm. I think they had a pretty confronting first harvest season, but what they found really interesting was that the amount of community focus that is up there and the amount of people that are actually willing to come and help you on that farm and actually volunteer or come and work with you on the farm to help in the community. There is a very big sense of community.
Huge.
Up there as well.
Huge sense of community.
Which when you drive around there, it's all farmland. So you would assume that there's not that much going on there, but there certainly is, right?
Yeah, well, we're on a macadamia farm, and even just driving to an appointment the other week, the neighbour is much older and he's getting his cattle across the road. I have no clue what to do with cattle. But I was out there yelling at them, getting them across the road. It's just nice all helping each other and not it's just a good, everybody always feels relaxed the minute they get off the plane in Byron.
Moving now away from Byron and you transition to your early career, you've done a few property house flips and a few bigger builds as well of recent as well. Yep. Talk us a little bit about the projects you've done, why you chose to buy those parcels of land and what you did with them as well to maximize the value.
Yeah, so some time ago when we had first moved and I was actually working at a real estate firm in Byron, I was asked to go and get some land cleared and get it ready for sale. And we went there, saw it, and just fell in love with the view straight away. So we ended up being the purchasers and probably paid too much at the time, as you do, typical real estate agent, and then set out to build an incredible, incredible property at the time. We absolutely loved living there. We ended up selling that, and we were able to capitalize on the market going up after COVID with all the land subdivisions. So we've built and sold a number of different properties in the land subdivisions of Lennox. And they've now blossomed into, you know, those land subdivisions are, what would you say? They're fully matured now with the trees and all the parklands, and they're just so close to everything. And it's just a whole nother community in itself outside of Lennox Beach. And we've still got others in the pipeline now. So it's good. It gives me an all over of the councils, how they work, the length of time that everything takes. If you can get things through complying development versus through the council, it just adds a lot of value when I'm helping my buyers.
Yeah, and I think something that we resonated with you and we're talking to in the early days, that, you know, it's one thing to give advice to people, it's another one to go and live it as well. And actually, whether it's you running a property management division and actually seeing the bad side of what can go wrong and the things you've got to watch out for, which is just naturally a part of any business or property that you buy. You've got to be thinking about the downside as well as the upside. But then things like going into a building process and what you've got to look out for there, what are the do's and don'ts in terms of capitalizing on the land, but also what to actually build, what product to build in that particular area as well, because it's a lifestyle asset around there for a lot of people, and understanding who your customer is that potentially is buying that property later. As I said, it is a real credit to you because you don't just give the advice, you go and live it.
Thank you.
And you make sure that you see the other side of it as well. And so give us, what's your biggest property tip if you had to give one to a person?
The biggest property tip is try not to buy with your heart. I say that to first-time buyers, but it is for everybody. Try not to buy with your heart. Try and buy with your head. But unfortunately in our area you do buy a lot with your heart, because it's a want, not a need. And north, everything's got to face north or have a lot of north aspect in it.
Yep.
I think that's a given.
Good advice.
Yep.
What's your top hack or trick for when you're negotiating a private treaty versus an auction?
Oh, knowing where your buyer is and where your buyer wants to end up is huge in the negotiation, and always starting a little bit lower than where your buyer would really want you to start, just to give you a little bit more room to move, because you really never truly know where the owner is at. Yeah,
it's so true. I think you got to look at the competition. You've also got to assess what your budget is. But the reality is, go as hard as you can at a point where you see it's right. But the reality is, you've got a budget. Stick to your budget. Like you said, stick to your head, not your heart at times. And the last one for listeners is, what's your biggest property hack that you've got?
Property in regards to property building?
Anything property related?
I think just you need to buy at the end of the day. People are always waiting for the market. And at the end of the day, the market is just over the last however many years, we really haven't seen the Australian market go backwards. It might have stayed stagnant, but don't keep waiting for something amazing to happen. Just do it instead of talking about it.
So true. I've had so many friends that are 10 years ago saying it's got to be we have a property crash. We'll look at the cycle every 7 to 10 years. We have a crash. Yeah. We might eat our words in this podcast at some point in time, but you know, the people who got in 10 years ago have done extremely well.
That's it.
Just for getting into the market.
Yeah.
I think one of my old mentors said, always sell everyone else's property and never your own.
Yeah.
And always make sure you hold on to it forever as well, because time in the market will always win.
Yeah, holding on to it is key if you can. It's not always possible, but...
Lastly, Mel, before we do wrap up, I wanted to say it's a privilege to have you on board. We feel very fortunate to have you join the FOUNDIT brand. If people want to get in contact with you, either learn more about your marketplace or get in contact with you and want to buy property there, how do they do so?
Thank you, Gus. Foundit.property is our website, and Foundit with Melanie on my socials. and reach out. Phone number, email is all on there, and I will definitely be getting back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you so much.